Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the EAC. We're so delighted that we have residents in our gallery today. Call to order, roll call. Attendance today, Cindy Mehallow. Present. Janet Pravanis. Here. Joe Pinto.
Here.
Dane Shoemaker.
Here.
Joe Sullivan Feeney. Present. Moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. First, give our moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item number 4, consider approving the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion was made by Dane and approved by Joe to approve the agenda. Item, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh, motion stands. Item number 5, public comment for agenda items only. Any public comment? Well, we're so delighted you're here. Thank you for coming. Item number 6, consider approving the minutes from our January 19th, 2023 minute. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? I'll move. Second? Second. Motion made by Janet, second by Cindy to approve the minutes. Motion stands. Do I hear, do I vote on that, please? Yes. Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. All right. Exciting item number 7, land development review. Discussion and possible action on Stony Knoll land development. I know we all had a chance to review the plans, and Stony Knoll has been a great resident, and actually they presently have property in Newtown Square. They've been a great resident of Newtown Square. And who would like to open up discussion on Stony Knoll?
I'll start. I asked Steve to pull up page 24 of the site development plan that was attached to the document. I need to grab my mic. Yep.
Here, you can take this one.
That's okay. I'll take this. Thanks. So I asked Steve to pull up page 24 of the site development plan. This is the page that shows the landscape plan. And in reviewing this, there are just a couple noteworthy features I'd like to put out. Do you have a pointer? There's no pointer.
Well, what we found is the LED light pointers don't work on the LED TVs.
Okay, well, I'll do my best. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, just to give you an orientation to this, you'll see 2 ovals in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see a series of parallel lines. The 2 ovals are what?
He's got his, Steve, I think, is using his pointer.
Oh, okay, his cursor.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ovals are stormwater detention basins. So there's 2 up there. There's a 3rd one over here and a 4th one here. The parallel lines indicate change in elevation. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner that the closer the lines are together, the steeper the slope. And as you go off the corner in the upper side, there is a tributary of Crum Creek up there. So the water theoretically is going to collect in those stormwater basins, and then whatever doesn't go in them is going to flow down toward the stream, which is, and you see that dotted line there, Steve is showing you, that is the riparian buffer there. So keep that in mind. 2 things I want to talk about are the trees that they are going to be removed and planted. And if you look at this list here, this is a list of all the trees that are being proposed to be removed, which is quite a few. There's significantly more than the plan that was presented last June. Last June, the plan only had 13 houses. Now it has 18, including one down here. And there were far fewer trees being removed last June under that plan because they were not planning to develop this property. So there's a formula that's all worked out here about the replacement, and they're trying to fulfill that by putting a number of trees along the road into the development and along the street as street trees, which I think is great. I mean, our township has a goal of planting 1,000 trees, and this will help towards that. However, there is a shortfall of trees by, if I'm writing this, they are supposed to plant 298. The plan only has 188. So if my math is right, what's the math of, it says 110, they're short 110 trees. So there's two ways they could make that up. They could either plant them there, or, and correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, or they could like pay a fee to compensate for each tree that they can't plant there.
That's probably, that's true. Yes, I'll leave it as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we require them to actually plant trees someplace else also. So like, in
So
other
that's
words,
another option.
another option.
Yeah, so there's different ways they can fulfill that. Because there's 2 points I wanted to make. One is about the trees. Given the fact that they could either contribute money or plant them elsewhere, if you're familiar with this property, it's basically farmland where there are not many trees. So one of the things that I think would be helpful is if they actually planted those trees here. I think that the land could stand it, especially if you get back into this area here where there's steep slopes, you're getting into a riparian buffer area. To me, the trees would be very valuable to plant it in that area, to have a forested area. The other place they could plant trees, and I'm not on the Shade Tree Commission, and this is their bailiwick, but we'd like to explore the idea of asking the developer to plant those trees on the development, whether it's back there around the stormwater detention basins, or perhaps on the front yards of the property. If you go to the neighboring development on Bridle Path, which has huge, lovely homes, they have trees that were planted there probably 30 years ago, and they did a really nice job of planting them kind of naturally down either side of the road. I don't know whether they're in the right of way, that 15-foot thereabouts right of way, but we'd like to explore them planting the trees on the property. Second major point is the addition of this house here. Steve, if you can move it up and zoom in. This house, I went over and looked at that property. And if you see these little circles with the X's, those have to be marked on this plan. Those are all trees that they plan to remove. This is a fully wooded property. Fully wooded. It is not cleared. It's not old farmland. And these dotted areas show wetlands. And there's actually, it's beyond wetlands. There are streams there. There are streams flowing. I was there 2 days ago, and you've got streams flowing in from the neighbor's property. He's got, I think, a bridge over his driveway because there's like always water flowing, and you've got water flowing on here. So this is basically the headwaters of an unnamed tributary that goes to Crum Creek, which is the source, goes to Springton Reservoir, and is our source of drinking water. Headwaters are among the most valuable, sensitive, precious habitats, ecosystems there are. This is where you begin to protect your water. So to cut down all those trees, many of which are some of the largest trees there, and then create a stormwater detention basin, and you can see how close those parallel lines are. That shows you how steep it's going to be. This all flows downhill into this wetlands area where it goes under the road. I would like to suggest that that is a really bad idea to develop anything on this wooded lot, and that it should never be developed. So that is what I would like to request. Two main things.
There's no property there right now.
No.
18 square?
It's just woods.
It's just wood. Okay.
Yeah, it's just
You
woods.
said there was a driveway or something?
Right? Oh, you can't see it, but there are homes on each of these lots.
Oh, okay.
And this home, you know, is set back and their driveway has a
Okay.
bridge over it, a culvert. Any other questions?
I think for context for them, remember the plans originally were calling for 27. That was the original plans. And then they revised it down because there was a two-way ingress and egress. Last year, the April plan that we saw before the board brought it down to 13 homes. And that was going to be a one-way with cul-de-sac, which they got the approval for in last April. In July, the resolution was issued. They did not act on that resolution. So my concern, I guess, when we looked at this property, and Cindy and I were out there, a couple of things on property 18, we were able to determine some trees were actually, we were able to determine the age of them were 167 years old for one of the trees, which is really impressive. If you look up in the corner, if you look in that little square in the corner, this plan also calls for them to convey 3.89 acres of this original parcel to the above land, which is the property owner. And that is a farmland that's under the Clean and Green Act for their farmland. So you're taking 8% of the property out and you're increasing the number of properties from 13 to 18. So that's a 38.4% increase in the request for the homes. And as Cindy noted, that area down there is delineated from 1994 as a wetland. And Crum Creek watershed, the DEP lists that as an impaired watershed system. So we're greatly concerned about it. I do also have a question about the agricultural waste from the farmland property. And since this is technically right now being used for a farm, we just want to have a question on that. I know the original plan last April had septic systems on site, but they've changed that to a low pressure sanitized sewer, I think, with the trace system.
I don't think they were always connected.
The last plans were, they had septic systems when we compared them, because this is now a lower pressure sanitizing system. And they're doing an infiltration system. So they're trying to control their water on site, which is awesome. My other concern, I don't know if Cindy, if you have that from the original plans from last April, the driveway size has changed drastically. Right now, you have the last April's, Steve? Yeah, do you have?
But before you leave this picture, zoom in, Steve. Zoom in, because we're looking at the amount of impervious surface,
Yes.
because when you go from 13 to 18 homes, it's not just the number of homes, it's the size of homes, which are quite large, but there's also very elaborate driveways. A number of them have these U-shaped things, and then these circles, and then an apron here. So you've got a lot more paved area. Now, back to what you were saying, Sheila, about the infiltration basins. I
Yes.
think it's shown better on a different picture. But Steve, there are these little gray boxes by each home, or by most of the homes. And it wasn't clear to us like what those were.
I believe that's for on-site infiltration
For their
to
store, yes.
accommodate the houses that are going in versus the larger is to accommodate the roadway that's going in, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It
Yes,
may be that it's in addition to what that was there.
Yeah, it is under the stormwater management, because technically they're saying that the home will be 61,000 square feet and the driveway will be 62,000 square feet. And our question was, and that would be impervious coverage. Was that including patios, decks and all, porches? We don't have that.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, here's what typically happens in a development. They come in, they design it for what they think they're gonna go out and sell these for, and then as the homeowner comes in, they say, oh, we would like, instead of a 20 by 10 patio, we want a 30 by 20 patio, so therefore, and then they have to increase the stormwater at the same time.
Right.
The stormwater
But I
management.
guess what our point was, the comparison of last April, what was approved in the driveway has drastically changed. So that's another condition. And they are requesting a waiver for the cul-de-sac. And, it's going from the max right now, which is allowed of 700 feet, and they're requesting 1,625.16 feet. So that's understandable because you're no longer going to have the two-way street, you're having the one. But I think the fire department and everyone else has to make comment on that because it's,
Yeah, so just so everybody understands why we're here. Okay, when they came back in with the 13, that was what Mr. Nolan wanted to do. Because of the way the water was going to be done on the property, the fire marshal said, really, we think that the water needs to be connected along the water that runs along Whitehorse.
Right.
And so that additional cost over $500,000+ is my understanding to do that additional cost. And so to do that, he's come back with additional housing to offset his cost to do that. I mean, that's the, in a nutshell,
Right.
the reason why we've gone from 13 to 18.
okay.
And Steve, just to clarify, that's to bring water to the development,
So
but it's not
so-
wastewater, it's.
no, this is aqua drinking water, but the reason why the fire marshal got involved. So originally, the plan was to bring water up through Echo Valley
Yes.
into this, and just to service this area. And that's actually how water's coming up to service what would be Hunt Valley Circle, which is the development right next to it. And so the fire marshal was concerned by adding the additional homes that if we had to fight a fire, we didn't have redundancy. And so by bringing the line that already comes down Whitehorse and extending that line, which ends kind of where the new housing is, that's actually over on the East Town side. So if you realize that Whitehorse is really the township line between Newtown Township and East Town Township. And so the fire marshal had felt that it needed to be brought down. That line needed to come down. So in order to meet that requirement, he's coming back and saying, I need these additional houses to make the financial work to do that. And so that's the gist of why we went from 13 to 18,
Well, he's also asking for the waiver for the type of pipe that you're using. So that.
which is always the case. So the waiver for the pipe and the waiver for the length of the cul-de-sac were both part of the 13. They're not anything new.
Okay, right.
What is new,
Conveying the land is new.
what is new is by going to the 18, by putting the house on that other lot, that's new. He didn't have any houses on that lot before. He was gonna just maintain it as open space. He was reserving the right to potentially come in and do a house there in the future if he wanted to. He owns the land, he could. And so, but anyway, that's
Right.
how he's doing that to make that work. I'm not sure I answered.
Do any other members have any comments on that? Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I have a question, Steve, about lot number 18 and the fact that wetlands were delineated there. And as I understand it, the township has an ordinance and requires like a riparian buffer of 50 feet, 100 feet.
I think it's 50 right now, but
It's going to 100 though, right?
Uh-huh.
It's presently certain, it's statewide, I think 35, but it's going to eventually go to 100 is what I've heard.
Well, that may be, but he's only required to meet what current.
What
it
current
is.
is, okay.
But one of the things I'm thinking about this lot 18 is the fact that you have wetlands there and you have to stay back from them. Is that reflected in his thinking to have a house there? Because I don't see a wetlands line on
Yeah,
the site
so,
plan.
so here's what I would recommend in your recommendation coming from you. I think you have, if I'm hearing correctly, I think you have three concerns that you're trying to address. One is the number of trees, right? And I think that that's a fair thing for you to address from the standpoint that you're concerned about stormwater, the impact on stormwater, the impact on the environment, all of those. Again, Shade Tree will also be evaluating this, but I think you could weigh in and say, we're concerned that you're supposed to plant X number of trees and you're only planting this number. We would like to see those planted on the lot. The second that I would say, I heard you talk about was the obvious wetland disturbance or potential disturbance or impact there. I think you just say, we would recommend it. There'd be no waivers given if it was going to encroach into wetlands in any way. And, that would be a fair thing. I don't believe they've requested that, but you could, go on record and saying, making sure there's no waivers. And what was the third one? I forget what the other thing you asked about.
I just had those two.
I thought you had one more though. I thought.
I think we were concerned about the 3.89 acres that were being conveyed to the property above, because then you're again reducing the size, yet you're increasing the number of properties.
Yeah, I mean,
And you're
that's.
converting that from farmland to grass, it's going to be considered grasses, they say.
Yeah, I think you're.
We can ask.
I mean, it's his property.
Yep,
If that's what
I
he
know.
wants to do,
Right.
I
I guess, like you said, the suggestion of putting the trees behind there, because that water goes back to Echo Valley, and I understand he is putting a type of a berm behind the property, right?
there is some change up this way,
Yeah.
yes, to impact or to protect that area up there, yes.
Right. And the other question, I know this is a kind of a stretch, is the discussion about light pollution, because that only, Newtown Square Meadow Preserve is on the other side. And we will be bringing new light to that area, which right now is farmland. It's kind of dark. So just something to think about. Anybody else have any other comments on that?
Have the streetlights point down.
Excellent point.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Streetlights point down rather
Yeah.
than light pollution up.
Yeah, I think that, that's a fair thing for you to put into your recommendation letter or your comment letter. Just that you're concerned that that any type of street light would be one that's got a cover that points down and, reduces light going up. And I understand that makes sense. And that's a fair
Do we need
request.
street lights
Yeah.
at all? I mean, a lot of neighborhoods don't even have any. I know.
Oh, not a street
Yeah.
light, it's just the properties,
The property, okay.
Yeah, if they, will they, I don't know if they have street lighting on that.
I didn't think they were having streetlights here. I don't
Okay,
know,
that
but
makes
if they are, you can put that in there.
But I did see that they are having their, neighborhood walkways, and they're doing swales, which is great. That
Yes.
property site. The
That's how
question-
they're addressing a lot of the stormwater.
Right.
The part coming on the property is the swales.
Right.
Um,
The question too, then, about the agricultural waste. So because it's farmland and you're converting it to properties, is there any concern on that? Because any pesticides or anything that they use for farmland?
I'm not an expert on that. If there's a impact,
Yeah. It's considered agricultural waste or agro waste, and that is when you're converting farmland to thing, it just needs to be questioned as to what, and I didn't see the engineer's report.
I don't know that I've looked at the engineer's report on this one, again. Because this one's actually being done by McCombie. In that, I think if you have a concern, you put that in your letter, and maybe that was the third one that I remembered that you guys mentioned, that in that way. I thought there was one.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion and give specific what we would like to have in our, because let's make a motion if we'll have Cindy draft a comment letter just to give our quote recommendations on this project. Anyone want to make that motion?
Again, I would go back and just confirm the 2 or 3 items that you want to put. Actually, I think I heard 4 now. That if there are streetlights, that they be pointed down. 2, if the 2 being the wetlands, 3 being potentially agricultural waste, and 4 being the tree issue. And, you know, I think what I hear you saying is that you have heritage trees or potentially heritage trees. Is there a way to, if there's any way to maintain those in that development, and particularly in lot 18, if they're going to go ahead and develop that, is there a way to maintain those in such a way? I mean, I know your preference would be they not develop 18 at all, but I think that you would be asking if 18 is going to be developed, is there a way to preserve more of those trees, move the house further away or something to keep those trees up, keep those trees that are that specific?
Can we ask for that it not be developed?
I mean, I think it's hard to ask a property owner not to develop something that he's entitled to develop. I mean,
Not to cut the
Well-
trees down there.
But Steve, the fact is that you've got wetlands there. It's the headwaters.
but again, my comment, I think you can comment on those things.
Yeah, we can ask.
And you should. I'm not telling you not to comment on them. I think that the challenge is if he's not asking for a waiver if he's meeting all of our requirements, and he's not asking for a waiver from those, it's hard to say that he shouldn't be developing that piece of land. He's entitled to. And so, I mean, I hear you. I'm just saying as long as if he's asking for a waiver, I think that you have a right as an EAC to take a stronger stand on it. I think you can make a recommendation. You could ask that he consider not doing it if there's a way to do it without doing that specific spot because of the value of it. I just think it's harder to say no to him if he's not asking for a waiver. If he's doing it by right, then my point is it's a harder ask in there. And particularly since his comment is, I wasn't even going to do it until
The cost change.
until the cost change. And so he's doing it to do that. I mean, does he need 5 additional to cover the additional cost? I don't know that answer. That's what he's saying he needs. I mean, I haven't sat down with his
Well,
numbers.
first of all, his properties are beautiful, and I'm sure he's gonna do a great job making the air beautiful. And
Yeah.
he has family in that area, so of course he wanted to do the right thing for his family as well. And he has legacy that he wants to leave
Sure.
in this township. So I'm sure if we ask the motion, and then I guess if we want clarity.
Can I ask one last question? I feel that it has not been resolved in my mind that if there were wetlands delineated in lot 18, why is there not indication of that on the site plan?
Well, I think that's a fair statement. And I think that that ought to be a part of your letter, that needs to be clearly delineated, and it needs to show that they're staying within the township's requirement of being the buffer for the wetlands. I think that is a very, that would be
Affordable.
a very valuable
Was any
statement. to put in.
environmental studies done on that area to determine
Well-
if there was anything else too?
Well, but my question is, we haven't seen the engineer's report. Isn't that something that the engineer would note when he reviews the plans?
Typically, yes, that would be noted by the engineer.
Okay, and
I mean,
where-
does the engineer sometimes miss something? Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm being careful.
Yeah,
I haven't
right,
seen
right,
it, I haven't
right.
seen it, but I think it's appropriate for you to bring it up. I will make sure that your comment letter gets before the engineer to make sure the engineer has taken that into account. If the engineer is not, he needs to take that into account.
Great. And my last question is, has the engineer prepared his report and has it, I don't remember seeing it.
I don't know on the
Because
answer
it
on
would
this
be
one.
useful for us to have that.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
we
I
make-
know that the engineer had done the review from the prior one. I
Yeah.
don't know that he's gone and completed this one.
Okay,
And
because he wouldn't have looked at lot 18
Right.
anyway.
Right.
Probably.
he would not have needed to look at lot
Right.
18 from the last one. He
Right.
needed to look at lot 18 on this one. Whether he's done that or not, I don't know the answer.
Steve, are we allowed to ask the engineer just for that copy? I know we'd always go through
You are always welcome to the copy. If we'd have had it, I would have thought it would have
Okay.
been attached to your agenda tonight.
Okay.
My I'm not saying that we don't have it. It may have been that we didn't have it when we did your agenda.
Sure, no worries.
Um,
right.
Can I reach out to Rose tomorrow and ask her for that?
you absolutely can. No, you cannot. You can reach out to Heather.
Heather.
right.
So,
Because our comment letter, if we do.
It's due by
decide
noon
it's
tomorrow.
new- And we were surprised about the turnaround this time because, I mean, we have till noon tomorrow to submit a letter and we can't even discuss it till we come together tonight. So that's kind of a little. Is
Well,
this gonna
that's-
be our new
this-
way? This is just that transitional month?
this is the challenge that we run into with when a plan is submitted and when we get before the planning commission.
Yeah,
And the challenge with this one, because he's been before the planning commission with two other plans,
right.
a lot of the work has already been done. And I suspect that the planning commission will act more quickly on this one if everything lines up. If the engineering letter and everything get done and they're all turned into the planning commission timely, and they've looked at it, I suspect they're going to move more quickly, only because a lot of this has already been looked at.
Right.
And it's just a minor, and I know I say that.
Well, I
Please
wonder
understand,
if
when I
you-
say minor,
Yeah.
I'm not meaning.
Yeah.
I know it's an impacting change, particularly impacting lot 18.
Yes,
It's a bigger impact than what the original plan was, but in regards to when you look at an overall subdivision, it's a minor change compared to what other kinds of changes could be if he was coming back. It was actually a bigger change when he went from 27 to 13 than taking this one from 13 to 15 to 18. I'm sorry.
yes, but the concession was the two-way ingress and egress was brought down to one way. So we
Yeah.
got the provision, the waiver on the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac. He also got the waiver on the piping consideration. And he also got the waiver on the recreational space and the trees from the last April things, which he chose not to act upon. And again, like you said, this is the third time. So this is township resources.
I think we waived the recreation space, but not the fee.
Oh, yeah, there was going to be like a $48,000.
Yeah, there's a fee, yeah.
right.
So we just said, if you're not putting in that,
And for this one, I mean, does have 18 properties, so he's going to be required to have 18,000 square feet of open space for those properties. So he was
Yeah.
offering to make a payment.
Yeah,
Okay, so I guess the motions are to decide in terms of drafting a letter, looking at the potential to ask them to consider our concerns that we expressed, and they would be the concerns of.
Can I make the
Yeah,
motion? Yeah,
please.
okay. I move that the EAC agree to draft a comment letter to Stony Knoll, making the 4 points, raising concerns about lot 18, our preference, our request that it either not be developed or to ensure that the wetlands have been delineated and are properly protected. The second point would be to express concern about light pollution and request that the lighting be designed in such a way as to not contribute to light pollution. The third one is to raise the possibility that the remaining trees that are not provided for in the plan be planted on the property with a preference for planting as many as are appropriate along the in the upper right-hand corner along, the stream by the detention basins. And the fourth one is Sheila's concern about making sure that any traces of agricultural waste or pollutants are considered.
Sounds good. Anything else, anyone?
We're good.
Okay.
So you put a motion on the
Yes.
table?
Anyone second? Motion was made by Cindy for Cindy to draft a comment letter. Motion was seconded by Dane. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion stands.
If I could
So-
just
Go ahead.
say one last thing. And this is more of a principle for the township and its bodies of elected officials and appointed officials to consider. there is always the need to weigh the rights of a landowner to realize economic gain from their property. And that's something that the township officials have to consider. There is also, on the other side, as elected and appointed officials of the government in Pennsylvania, there's an environmental rights amendment to the Pennsylvania state constitution. We are one of the few states in the nation that have this. And this very simple amendment calls for the protection of natural resources, discusses natural resources and the public estate. And it says, the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As a trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all people. So I would just submit that in addition, when the township bodies are making decisions and thinking about allowing a landowner the right to realize maximum economic gain from their property, they also have been elected and appointed by the people of their municipality, township, to protect the welfare of the rest of the people. And when one landowner's actions impair and hurt the rest of the people, that's something that I think the government needs to weigh. And that's why this particular parcel, one, out of 18, that is a very sensitive piece of land. When that land is developed, it's gone forever. And you can put in a detention basin, you can try to plant a few trees in there, but no, you have permanently harmed the headwaters of that stream.
And I do, as I said, everyone took a motion that Cindy will draft that letter. It will be due by 12 o'clock. And maybe if you can mention that, like you said, lot number 18 was not considered before. So I would love to see in the engineer's report what was done in terms of environmental studies for that, because that was not part of the original plan. I don't see it in the resolution last year. I didn't see it in those old plans. And we totally respect the right of the property to make a fair thing. We're just trying to make sure that we take care of the residents and the headwaters, and across the street from that area is a very sensitive water again, because you're coming in from Creek and Echo Valley on both sides of this property. So it has a huge impact. So thank you, Cindy. I was really appreciate everyone giving that input on that.
So if I could interrupt you just a minute. I've gotten some information this afternoon that I think matters on item number 8.2.
Oh,
And so, and I literally got it this afternoon, so
okay.
So the developer, being Aronimic, it was determined that at the planning commission the last time that they needed to have a conditional use hearing because of the disturbance of steep slopes. And so I just want you to be aware that their intent is to be before the Board of Supervisors on March 13th for that conditional use hearing, and they will be before the planning commission at this month on that. And so I share that just to say, if you want to, and I know it doesn't give you much time to weigh in, but as a fact that it's steep slopes, if you want to make comment and or give an action item to the board, you have a relatively short window to do that in that they're doing that. So there are two options that you have. One is to go ahead and make comment tonight that any steep slopes, that's going to be disturbed, you would want the board to, because it's in a short period of time, you haven't really had a chance to do a full review of that, and that you would want the board to take an action to protect the steep slopes, at least up to the ordinance in which at least up to the value in which the ordinance that we have, or two, recommend that the board allow you to review that and that the board keep the hearing open for any potential that you would respond back to them at the 27th meeting, the March 27th meeting for that. So I'm throwing that out because I just found out about it, and I'm trying to give you kind of what I think are two options that are there. And it could be that you combine the two options, saying that if there's steep slope disturbance is within the guidelines of the township, and there's nothing that would be beyond that, we're okay. But if the steep slopes is above that you'd like to have an opportunity to weigh in before that. And obviously, any one of you can come to the meeting to do so. But that would be, it would just give you a chance to review it at your next meeting.
All right, and we did discuss, Veronica, the last meeting, we discussed it, so.
Yeah, I think the way the steep slopes were listed in that was they were man-made. I think that was challenged, and it was determined that some of those were not man-made.
Actually,
steep
we
slopes.
discussed how severe they were.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I really appreciate you bringing this up. You've explained it pretty well. And I appreciate how you laid out the options. So my question is, what do we have to look at? Like what
And
document?
that's the
would there
challenge
be?
right now. I don't have anything to give to you, because when I put your agenda together at the time, I didn't know that they were going to come in. I mean, literally, I saw the email
Right.
this afternoon
Right.
that
Yep.
they intend to go before the planning commission for conditional use recommendation, and then be before the Board of Supervisors on the 13th.
Okay,
I-
so when they do that,
Yeah.
they're going to have some document or plan
That
to
is
take
correct.
before the planning.
It
commission
is
and
the
board.
same plan that you had before
Okay,
you
it's
the
the same
last
plan.
time. The difference was, I think they were claiming
Okay,
that their steep slopes were man-made. I think that was challenged by some of our staff and our engineer. And so that actually has caused them to come in and ask for this conditional use of what they're doing in that they're impacting the steep slopes of I can't remember if it's for the stormwater that they're putting in, or if it's for
I thought it was to the side of the pool, because,
So-
yeah, but I think
because-
that was part of the stormwater as well.
yeah, because that's right down the paper mill.
Yeah.
so the plans have not changed. It's just the categorization of
Of
the type of steep slopes, which therefore affects that would trigger
yes,
a different threshold.
that's my
and waiver.
understanding.
Okay, so then the reason I ask about that is because when we think about the different options you mentioned about the timing, I'm just thinking, do we have what we need to look at to consider that and come up with our recommendation? And if we were to present something at the March 13th, you said it's going to be before the planning commission on the 23rd and the Board of Supervisors on the 13th. And it sounds like you've kind of mapped out potential wording for us, or if we were to pass a motion now about the action we want to take and what we might put in a comment letter. So do you want to make the motion for us?
No, I don't want to make it. I'm happy to give you the wording again.
Yeah.
Um,
So
like-
we would like, okay, let me try. I propose, make a motion that the EAC prepare a comment letter, depending on the time available to either the planning commission or the Board of Supervisors, specifying or requesting that the board or the Board of Supervisors not grant waivers for the disturbance of steep slopes, but ask the developer to comply with the steep slope requirements.
Of the township.
The township.
of the
seeks
township,
stormwater.
or
Address their stormwater. warrant property.
or in lieu of, I think that if the developer's not doing that, then, because it may be, some things are like conditional use, and it's, for example, if you're allowed to do it with conditional use, and you go do it, and then you just move on, right? And the township approves it. The thing may be that you want to say that if it's disturbance beyond what's allowed, then you would like, if the Board of Supervisors is considering it, you would like to have a chance to weigh in. So you would ask the hearing to be the hearing to be
Delayed.
Allow your input, you said till the 24th?
to the 20,
The 20,
to the 27th,
the 27th.
the
yeah.
hearing to be, and I'm drawing a blank on the
But
name.
Steve, if the disturbance is beyond what's allowed, why do we need to ask for a delay? Why don't we just say, we ask them not to grant it if it's
Yeah,
beyond what is allowed?
but here's the thing, if, remember, because it's conditional use, you have potential conditions that you can place on it. And if you wanted to make a recommendation as to the conditions of, like, let's say the Board of Supervisors was leaning towards allowing this, and you wanted to make a recommendation as to any conditions,
To put like contingents on, like, if you allow
this,
this,
we would
then in
recommend X, Y,
compensation or
and Z.
whatever, we want to ask for.
These are
Like
the
rain
things that we
gardens or
would,
extra trees planted or something else.
correct.
Okay.
That, I just don't want, that's why I'm saying if the board was gonna act, that you would at least like to have a chance to weigh in on potential conditions that would be placed upon it if they're going to do this.
Why do we need to ask for it to be pushed back to March 27th?
That
Because
just
you
gives us
don't
the time.
meet again
Okay.
until,
Right.
The 16th.
until the
We
16th,
would
which
have
is
to-
after the meeting that they're going to
Okay, so
have.
that would give us time to have dialogue on what those conditions might
Might
be
be.
at our next meeting.
Do does that make sense now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the other option is for you to say, let's have a special meeting between now and then. And we've just got to figure out how to put it on our calendar for you to have another meeting. And I'm trying to say, I don't know that you want to meet again, and you're just asking for the hearing to remain open for additional information if.
And right now, we don't even know what they're exactly asking for, so it's
Well-
probably better, right?
We know what the plan is. We just,
We know what the plan is.
I just don't remember what the impact is, and
Um,
I'm sorry, I don't know that, I just didn't.
so
yeah.
how big of a deal is it to ask for it to be bumped from the March 13th agenda to the 27th?
I think you're just asking for the record to remain open till the 27th for you to give any additional input.
For the record to remain open or for the board to delay its decision?
Well, I think if you want to have additional input, then the record needs to remain open because it's a hearing. If you don't want to have input and you just want to make a general comment, you could just say, if you want the record, if you want it on the record, let me put it that way. If you want it on the record, you want the record to remain open.
Yes.
If you want to just say you want to make comment for the board before it's making its decision, then they could close the hearing, you could make the comment, and then they could come back and make their decision. But I would think that you want yours on the record of this is what you've asked for. And I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
I'm not telling
It
you.
makes sense. Take your advice because I'm lost.
Well,
Basically, we're just trying to say, if we're going to get input, the supervisors will hear the knowledge before they make a decision. Otherwise, they've already made their decision and we're coming back afterwards and crying over spilled milk. So we're giving
Yeah.
it's giving us an opportunity to give input while the decision is being made instead.
and that's why I'm saying you're requesting the record remain open.
Yes.
If they're
Just
doing
takes the
something
extra
that's
time.
beyond,
I think,
which I think they have to be
Yeah.
here in the first
and I
place.
take a motion if we suggest taking the extra time. So we can really, marinate on the issues and understand them, especially because paper mill in that area is highly impacted by this. And those slopes, when we talked last month, are rather severe. So the motion is, we will listen to the contextual use that would be put forth by Aronimink. We will meet at our regular March 16th meeting, and then we will take possible action that we will submit to the board for their meeting on March 27th.
I think what you're doing, though, I think you want to be clear that you're requesting that the record remain open till March 27th.
I would
For you
request,
to-
yeah, the record stay
you-
open so that the EAC can weigh in on this conditional use and brought the information back, especially with the new information given by the engineer about the severity of the slopes, so that we can provide the best input to the supervisors to take appropriate action. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second, motion made by Sheila, seconded by Dane for us to entertain the Aronimink Golf Club's conditional use that will be at the hearing on March 13th before the supervisors. Any nays? I mean, sorry, anyone all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion stands. All right, we're gonna go back to item number 8.1. We're just gonna say it because we didn't address it. 311 Sawmill Land Development Application. President of the zoning hearing board in February 20, no action at this time is required from us. And since we addressed item 8.2, we can go to item 8.3. Garrett Williamson Land Development applicant has granted the township an extension for an indefinite period of time as the project has been put on hold while the applicant works through some issues at their end. No action taken at this time. All right. Item number 9, new business. All right, now we've got a lot going on here, so I want to watch our time. Item 9.1, discussion of possible action on the timing, execution, and funding of rain garden maintenance event proposed. Cindy, we're going to go into deal with Green Waiver on this.
Yeah, I would like to keep this as simple as possible. The agenda shows the timing of the different events that we're planning to hold. I've been in touch with Greenweaver. Last year, we had an estimate from them. We had the money budgeted. We had a requisition submitted. I'm now working with them to finalize these dates, to begin to coordinate the logistics, and I plan to work with Sheila and Bruce, the past EAC chair, to coordinate execution of the payment.
Yeah, so just so I have clarity, and because I think was this a carryover from last year, or is this?
I believe just $1,000 or so isn't that from the grant? And there's 4,000 that will have to come out of the EAC budget. That's why I wanted clarity. as
Well, and
well.
I have the 4,000 for there. I guess the question was, I just want to make sure, is the cost greater than that? Is that what you're telling me? I did, because I'm, part of the challenge is with having having left, I'm trying to make sure I understand where all the
Yeah, and I
dollars are.
And I have an email from Bruce that details this because he always handled the finances. So your question is, what is the total amount?
Yeah, what's Dreamweaver charging?
It's a 2-part invoice. One is $33.90 and the other is $1,230.
1,000.
And the question is, she has.
Oh, and then
proposal-
there's a third, they broke it out. The third item is 900 for the instructional visit. So it's 3 components.
And you believe, so Sheila, you believe that there was money left over from the grant?
According to Bruce, there was money left over from the grant and the leftover amount will be coming out of the EAC budget. But we did not, I think the question is, did we vote on that last year for that budget amount to come through? Because it
Do we
not,
even need to vote on it if
Right.
it's in the budget? I don't
Well,
even know that we need to.
but we are expending.
Well, I think that
$80.
if you're wanting to take action like that, I think that it just needs to be clear that that's what you're wanting to do.
Right.
And
Take
I think
action
it
like
would-
what?
Well, I
Like
think if you're
engage
wanting,
Weaver?
yeah, if you're wanting to involve Greenweaver, I don't know if you need to vote for the exact dollar amount. But what you need to do is vote that you want to use Dreamweaver to do this. And that's what your direction is. And then because it will go to the Board of Supervisors for actually financial payment.
Right.
And I just need to make sure that I understand the 2 areas. And what I don't know is where the dollars from the grant's still available. They may not even be available, so I have to find that out. If you don't, I assume that you'll want to use other dollars that you budgeted to cover this cost.
Yes,
Okay,
and
What was the question about? You said the proposal previously, if you use the old proposal, that would be within the grant, but if you use a new proposal, you sent me that email today?
don't even go.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I can read you Bruce's email. I can send it
just
to you.
forward it to me
Yeah,
and I'll take an action on it and
Okay,
I'll chase the money and make sure that everything's where it needs to be.
okay, great.
I have a question about a grant. I may bring it up now.
Wait, let's not change the subject.
Okay. Don't
Do
read
we,
it.
do we need to vote on anything or do we need?
I think you just need to, I think you need to take an action and I don't need this to be a formal motion, but basically that you're going to involve the Dreamweaver in what you're gonna do over and those 2 dates that you're wanting to take action. And then just so that you know that, we'll put those on the township calendar and then we go forward.
okay. Cindy, would you like to make the motion?
I have to make a motion? Okay.
I think if you all just say, yes, this is what you want to do, I think you can almost do this by consent.
Okay.
But if you want to make a motion, make a motion.
I move that we engage Greenweaver to provide maintenance on the rain garden and that we have the events that are in the agenda. The cleanup in February, March, the weed ID and removal tentatively scheduled for May 8th, and the replanting of the gardens scheduled for their May 6th or 13th to be confirmed. Probably the 13th, because your bird walk is on, right? Yes.
And at a possible expense of roughly $4,000. If that
Yeah.
is what our EAC, $4,000 to $5,000 would be. the
I'm here,
expense.
I did that ad, I got 5520. Then that's what I understand
Yeah.
that you're wanting to spend.
Coming from different sources, a combination of funding of grant monies and budgeted.
What were the numbers again? I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Do you have a second?
No, I
She
second.
made it as a
I'll
motion.
second.
Was the first one
All in favor?
33?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
The motion stands. Thank you for that, Cindy. That's awesome.
Got a question about a grant.
Yes,
Yes, last year, Valley Forge Audubon Society, which had granted us money for the pop-up garden, we did not spend it all. They sent the $400 to the township for future plantings that it's not been spent. So I wonder if that money is still allocated for that purpose or not.
If it's not, it needs to be, so
Okay.
just I'll look to see what happened with those dollars, so.
Okay,
But yeah, if it was sent for a purpose, we
Yes.
need to maintain and use it for that purpose.
all right, very good.
all right.
And you said it's $400?
Yes,
All right, I just have to find where it was placed.
all right, thank you.
All right, item number 9.2, discussion and update and possible action on proposed Newtown Township Arbor Day tree planting for April 29th by Cindy Mehallow. The tree planting. We discussed it with Trish Adams, our tree planting today on March 29th. Do you want to give the summation?
The Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree Commission is going to lead an Arbor Day tree planting event. The intent at the moment is to plant approximately 15 trees along Ocean Walking Trail. The chair of the Shade Tree, Trish Adams, has been in touch with George Sheritz. And the timing, as I understand it, they're coordinating this, but the timing, as I understand it, is to use bare root trees obtained through the PHS. And the date is
Saturday, April 29th.
Saturday, April 29th.
We just need to take a motion that we will be having an Arbor Day event because it's part of our trees. We don't,
I don't think you need to do
Okay,
anything.
okay.
Shade Tree's gonna
okay,
do it.
perfect.
I think the only thing for you is just that it's
Yes.
there unless you wanted to do, unless you're trying to do something else in
No,
addition.
we are supporting
So
Shade Tree.
You're
is
just
the lead.
supporting the
Yeah.
Shade Tree. I don't think you need to
Okay.
take any action.
And also Trails is in on that as well.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, but my point is, I don't think requires any action from you.
All right, item 9.3, discussion and possible action on the spring remainder calendars. So we have so many exciting things going on this spring. On Saturday, March 25th, everyone can join us for the CRC stream cleanup at Drexel Park. And it'll be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll have the list of volunteers that will go out, and that is coordinated through CRC, and that is in conjunction with Parks and Rec. On Saturday, April 15th, DCVA, which is the Derby Creek Valley Association, has a stream cleanup at both Rear Park and Brookside, and that'll be from 9 to 12. And working with EAC on that is Newtown Township Parks and Rec. And that link will be going out for volunteers request as well. And on Saturday, I'm going to let Janet take over. This is her baby.
Okay, good. On Saturday, May 6th, we will have our spring bird walk at Garrett Williamson. They have again invited us to be part of this. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning till 10. And it's in coordination with the CRC. They will be sending out the invitation. So we always work together with them, and Mike McGraw will be leading, and we hope to find another birder to be there as well. So that will be posted through our Facebook page as well as through CRC for that event on May the 6th. And I would also like to add that in conjunction with Birdtown, because the bird walk is also with part of Birdtown as well as the EAC. But on we're planning a plant sale of native plants in coordination with the Historical Society, either at the Paper Mill House or at the main
John West.
John's right, yes. Date has yet to be determined, but it will be in like late spring. And this will be an opportunity to highlight the importance of native plants, pollinator gardens, getting yards certified to show the importance of native plants.
Awesome. All right, item 9.4, discussion and possible action of Earth Day. This was added by the township because we're doing an Arbor Day. We don't necessarily need to do it. Yeah.
You had talked about
Right.
Earth Day at one point.
Right.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Does
You
it-
had talked about Earth Day at one point, and I just wanted to make sure that it didn't get an
Would-
oversight if you wanted to
anybody
do
would like
something
take
different.
any action on Earth Day?
What day is Earth Day?
Earth Day
I
would
think
be
it's
the week
20
before.
The week
22nd.
before.
Yeah, the
the
22nd,
22nd.
or the 20th of April. It's always the week before Arbor Day.
Yeah, it's the 22nd. And that's the only reason I put it on
Yeah.
here. If you wanted to take an action, I didn't want you to forget about it.
We have our
I
park
think we have-
cleanups covered. Do we,
Right.
do
We
we
have
have,
stream cleanups, we've
do we
got
have
parks,
anything else?
we have bird hikes, we have tree planting. I mean, and we're saving the world as best
Yeah.
as we can.
I think we have enough things
Yeah.
going on.
This was not to add something else to your
Yeah.
plate.
No.
If you
I
didn't
looked at
want
my
to,
calendar from March.
but I
29th
didn't want to, if
May,
you
we're
had
booked.
talked about
Yeah.
something at one point, and I just didn't want it to fall off the radar if you were wanting it. That's all.
Well, let's say every day is Earth Day.
Well,
Yes, we'll make a resolution that we respect Earth every day in Newtown Square.
And my feeling about Earth Day is that as long as you have an event about the earth sometime in April, you can call it an Earth Day event. Even
Yeah.
if I don't define things narrowly.
And the other thing too is you may want to recommend that the board take an action and pass a resolution for Earth Day. That would be something that would be an action that would be something you would want to do,
Right.
even though you may not be doing an event that day.
Would we want to add this to our March calendar, or have the resolution made in respect of Earth Day? It might be a nice little thing to remind everyone about the importance of Earth.
Yeah, we could do that.
Mm,
And each give you a plant or something.
Sure. There's a resolution just as a symbolic
Yeah.
FYI.
And
So we can
could
add it to
bring-
the
we could
March,
Bring a few plants
yeah, we
in.
can add it to our March agenda. How about we'll do that?
All right.
Because
Gotcha.
we would want to do the wording on that as well. All right, item 9.5, this is awesome. This is the discussion and possible action on the social media content and the process to provide the township with social media content relating to environmental issues twice a month. So we know that we're going to have a lot of our own events, but we definitely want to have a process where we either select an individual who will kind of make sure that all areas of the environment are looked at. Or maybe we do bring, everyone suggested, send in your possible content, but we want to get to Rose twice a month, information about the environment. And this could be something we're talking about, light pollution, some in the environment, planting a tree. We're going into mosquito times on why we don't want to spray. I mean, so what do you want to do in terms of, do you want one person to be in charge of doing that? Or do you want it to go through the board?
So this is not, doesn't have to be something that's taking place in our township. This is informational.
This is a blurb that we're sending to Rose so
Yeah.
that twice a month, the EAC issues are being put out on the townships.
I
Social
see
media.
it like, I mean, you're doing a rain garden event, but you may do a blurb that it just talks about the benefit of rain gardens.
Right.
And it would be something, it doesn't have to be like a full article or anything like that. Remember, social media. The goal, look, here's what I know, as non-social media oriented as I am, and I proclaim that I'm not. But what I know is that people pay more attention to your social media if you're posting more often.
Right.
And so my goal was to have every committee post twice a month, which if every committee did that, we would be posting somewhere around 20 times a month. If we were posting 20 times a month, people would value our Facebook or our Instagram or whatever pages we have because they're seeing something more often. Right now, I think we have about 1,000 followers is
I think you're 1,500,
about
about 1,500. I think
1,500.
Yes.
Anywhere, somewhere around that.
I can take this.
My goal is to have it to be that somebody would say, I just want to know what the township's
Right.
doing because there's something there. Right now, I don't think we post often enough for
Right.
people to value following us or whatever it is that gets you that you see the post.
Right.
And so that's the goal. I think you all have lots of information that is important. It doesn't have to be something that's always an event. It could be just, something about sustainable business,
Yes.
something
Yeah.
about bird walks in general, the value of birds, pollinator garden.
Right.
It may be something that you picked up from someplace else that we're going to forward on or whatever, but just make sure we're not having a copyright issue.
And I thought, as long as we're getting content that's from a reliable source like DCNR, there's so many out there. And if we're getting 2 times a month, plus we have our own events, which should really be once a month. So. if
There's
we
a
can-
lot of stuff we post on Birdtown, Pennsylvania.
Perfect.
And we are like culling from the area for things to put on our calendar. If I find that it's something that I think would really be helpful for our.
So Dane has offered to,
So what is it? So is Rose managing the Facebook page? or-
Well, actually, Steve manages the page,
Okay.
but Rose would be the place where we collect it. So
Rose
remember,
collects from
Rose
EAC.
represents so instead of having all 10 send information to Steve and Steve trying to manage what all of that is, it would go to Rose. Rose would review it with me, make sure everything's set, and because we have review
So
everything
she
before it
collects
gets
from all the
posted.
committees and then
Excuse me?
she collects from all the committees.
She collects from you, like Steve has 5 committees, I think, that he represents.
and we're the only one
Rose-
for Rose.
Rose represents, I think, 2 or 3, and maybe, I know she helps Suzanne with the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
I don't remember. I lose track of who's doing what.
So
Wait,
And
send
then
it to Rose.
Heather-
If you guys have
Heather
an idea, send
does
it to her.
Zoning hearings, shade tree.
well, I think, no, we don't want to send our ideas to Rose. We want to have 2 sources from the EAC that everyone is kind of agreed with, or somebody's looked over, and then we send only the proper
The ones
ones
we
to
want.
run
Yeah.
to Rose.
I think what Dane's trying to say is that he will be that
Yep.
funnel.
Yeah.
Right.
Happy to-
And are there parameters as to how long it should be?
Remember, here's my thing on social
Sure.
media. If I can't read it in 3 minutes, I'm probably,
Right.
or less, I'm not reading
I
it.
think it's 40 seconds.
Is it 40 seconds?
Yeah. That's boom.
You can tell that I know nothing about social media, but
I think it would.
This
be-
is, if you can't catch my eye by the time I do this, it's gone.
Right.
All right, so the motion was made that Dane would be our social media content
Alright.
person. And he will be providing information on our township EAC events or other environmental issues to Rose twice a month. So thank you, Dane. We don't need to vote on that because we all love Dane.
Do
doing
we
that.
need to review that in this meeting?
if
like
you
next
think it's
month?
something that is not if it's something different than what you normally talk about, like if I would argue if it's something related to sustainability
Yes.
and the business piece, you could just do that. If something related to garden, rain gardens, the bird walks, those kind of things. If you came up with something on electric vehicles, I would say probably you ought to at least talk about it first and make sure that you all are like the direction that it's headed, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't want to make it cumbersome.
Right.
I just want to keep information out to our residents
Yes.
related to what you're doing. And if you did it twice a month, I think that's a good flow.
And
So
anyone
we
have-
could keep feeding
Yes.
Dane with things.
with
that-
ideas that are relevant.
Yeah.
And he
Sure.
could choose.
Great. Item 9.6, discussion and possible action on that EAC will present an update to the Board of Supervisors on March 13th. We are going to be discussing the Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition and our upcoming events. So that's just, Dane and I will be going before the Board of Supervisors. We've already been graced with their presence. And we're going to go into all the details. Shortly, Dane's going to be giving an update on the sustainability pledge. So it's just a great chance. We will bring them up to speed on all of our EAC events. And we just want to kind of get it part of the board to let them know how much we appreciate them supporting our environmental issues. And of course, we support them, and of course, they support us as well. Item number 10.1, discussion and approval of possible actions on the Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition pledge items. Dane, this is you.
Yeah, so just kind of an update on activities that we've had, and we had the breakfast, right, that kind of kicked things off. Since then, we've sent out a mass email to the business association. That went out last week from Paul.
Friday.
There's also the March 16th luncheon at TECA, where we'll be talking about sustainability. Francine Locke from the county is coming in to offer her perspective and how we can kind of localize some of the initiatives that the county is doing.
How do we personally sign up to go to a luncheon?
It is.
Yeah, so there'll be
There is a link,
I think the general public is a bit, yeah.
yeah, we'll send you the link because
Yeah.
Okay.
the business association.
You can try to go to their calendar. It wasn't functional.
Well, you have to be, from what I've learned, you have to be a member in order to log in and register for an event. So otherwise, I think you can just show up and just pay cash. at
And
the door.
we could ask
Yeah.
for EAC members, we
We
can
give Paul
submit it, we'll
that.
just have to pay it ourselves and that's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Or you could shoot an email to Paul and
Yeah.
let him know you're coming, so he gets a head count.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, I would recommend you let Paul know.
yeah, and it is a $20 fee, but that will just come out of your own pocket. Sure. But it really is important, and I'm really thrilled that we have Francine Locke because she had a chance to discuss some of our EAC initiatives in Newtown Square. She was really excited actually about us, and she wants to come in and kind of do a little talk around the town and see what we're doing, because she was very much excited about Greer Park. We talked about that, so we're gonna roll out the green carpet for her photo. So
And
it's all-
I would recommend, after you guys do that, Suzanne and I are actually at a conference that day.
yeah, I did ask her if she could meet with you.
At State College. I think it would be beneficial, for maybe two of you and us, because, we're doing the township-wide sustainability kind of things that you all helped us get kicked off and get going. And so, I don't want to lose sight of that either. So it would be helpful to just circle back with her. And I think Suzanne's been talking with her, but I think it's just one more step.
Right, and she's gracious to come along to the lunch.
She's talking at the We Could Serve PA
Yes,
conference on February the 25th.
yes, right. And that is, that actually Dane, actually Cindy, Joe, myself and Janet are all attending the We Can Serve EAC National Conference and Regional Conference on Saturday, February 25th from 9 to 3:30.
Yes.
What's great, we all have selected different, you're down for, what are your classes? Because we have the morning combined session.
Well, I wanted to listen to Francine. so-
Yeah, you're doing the Delaware County
Right.
and then
Something on Meadows.
you're doing the
Right.
Meadows, and I think you were doing the store management, or what are you doing your classes you chose? Yeah, we all chose, I made sure everyone chose something different, so we're attended at each wing, and also they are filmed, so we'll be able to go back to them.
Right.
So yes, that's awesome, and it's great, looking forward to that. And,
A couple other things just related to the Green Business Coalition. So this went out in Hometown Press article, just some more promotion around that. I think with the social media stuff as well, we'll do some promotion and highlights. So couple of key meetings that we had. So Sheila and I met with Boron. They've signed the pledge since then. Just some simple things I thought would be interesting to highlight. They have a 2-vehicle EV charging port. They're installing a second one this month at some point. You know, they sent a whole list of stuff here, but they eliminated desk trash cans at each individual office. They have a centralized waste collection. They have bamboo toilet paper, which I thought was interesting.
Yes.
Sustainable. They have native plant landscaping around their property. They've built a new path around on the property that goes around the that campus boulevard area. We'll also had a call with SAP and they signed the pledge.
Tell
as
them what
well.
you're doing about the Bradford pears. They're taking out the Bradford pear trees.
They
and
are, yeah.
replacing them.
So
with
they're working
two-
with, who are they? They're not Greenleaf, but another.
Another provider and they're
Forget
gonna
the
do,
name.
but they're also looking, they also got rid of all their coffee cups. And they have a dishwasher and they actually have real use coffee and the dishwasher instead of all the plastic cups and all the other stuff. So that's great, but
Mhm.
that was a big win, so we're
Yeah.
excited.
We need to figure out how to kind of aggregate some of the stuff and start, and I think through that will be either through Hometown Press, through social media, kind of aggregating some of this and sharing this with the township. SAP obviously has done a lot there as well, centralized trash program, composting, green roof. They have rain gardens on site, you know, some of their energy efficient data centers there. From the Top Studio is another pledge, business that pledged. They got rid of single-use plastic bags. I don't know what that looks like. We need to do a visit there maybe at some point, but
Oh,
yeah,
the studio. they
yeah,
got
you
rid of
talked
the
to Sheila,
plastic. Yeah,
yeah.
they got rid of the plastic. They have a water refilling station for all
Yeah.
the dancers to come in. All of their dances and their materials come in plastic. She got rid of those and discouraging that. LED lights, and so it's
Mhm.
great that they're taking in the initiative and
Recycling
bring it to the
program.
circle.
Yep.
We also,
Verbal commits or I guess.
well, they've committed,
They-
there was a glitch with the system, but the yoga in
Charming
the circle,
Stars, yeah, Yoga in the Circle
Charming Place, the Star Room is coming
Yeah.
on.
and D&K.
And we're meeting with Dunwoody. We're gonna get before their board. And we're actually trying to really heavily get into the school district. So we reached out to St. Anastasia to get into the school there. Leonard, we're asking for the contact from the school district because I did talk with Rich and Al from the Marple Newtown Leisure Services about it. But because the building is owned by the state, they have to go through the school district as well. But we really want to look for our green leaders up front, and they're the ones that we're getting to promote this until we get into the nuts and bolts of everyone's. But the March 20 and the March 16th luncheon is going to be great for us there.
Yeah, so our goal is 10 by the end of the month, and I think and then by the time we present to the Board of Supervisors, we want to have all the 15.
Yeah.
I think is realistic, so, yeah.
We're
moving
trying to
along.
target the ones like Dunwoody, huge, and they've really excited about it, but we have to get before their board and that's exciting. Anybody support of the pledge, please? We'd love for, if you know businesses. that
Yeah,
are
you-
engaged,
Yeah, if you're patron of a business or know an owner, feel free to bring it up.
Dane, I would just
Yeah.
want to say, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah,
I
Thank you.
think this is
Sheila's been. a huge
really
help.
exciting. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Sheila's
Yeah,
having a
Bruce-
side.
Bruce Woodward, Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, great.
I
to
think it's
see
good. A
this.
lot of people are interested in it and.
Yep.
Right thing to do, and so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just two
the
thoughts.
conversations have been very easy. People are willing to
That's
do it.
I see this as feeding into your social media
Yeah,
role.
absolutely.
That
Yeah,
if you're ever short a story, it seems like you could just, one of the two blurbs each month could just be a little profile on our latest member,
that's what we want to do
what they're
is
doing.
highlight a business every
Yeah.
month or.
Yeah.
And we want them on the
Yeah.
website as well. We want to encourage that because I want to give the credit where people are making
Mhm.
changes and doing
Yeah.
that.
Actually, with Boron, Dane is going to come in and they're going to take a part of their grass and convert it into a natural meadow. So that process and just a drone overview of that will be just a really kind of cool view. So that'll
We
be
plan to do a little video.
a little
for
video
them.
commercial
Yeah.
and
So-
what they're doing. So we're excited about that. All right,
I wanted to ask, who is the company that provides the native plants for Ellis, around Ellis, because they have a lot of their plantings are native plants, and good for pollinators. I would
don't know the
like
answer.
to be able to,
right. talk with them
You would have to
about-
check with John Ford or Katie Amsterdam.
the Bright Spot Cafe is?
Yes.
There, right behind that is the
Okay.
trailer of their ground maintenance crew.
All right.
And,
Yeah, but I don't know if they're the ones who are doing the plannings. I think
Yeah.
I think the plannings are being done by another group. That's why I'm
Okay,
saying,
yeah.
reach out to
Um,
most likely Katie Amsterdam from the Equus group.
Okay. I'd like to see them put a few signs out.
Yeah.
say it's for the-
I mean, they've been asked to do that and they're
Yes.
doing it. So,
Okay, great.
and
I haven't seen
they're the
it.
ones that are also done the native plants in the median strip along Route 3.
All right,
Meeting.
any other items from members? Janet, Joe, Dave?
No.
I just want to say one thing. I was at a walk last Saturday, the Chocolate Walk, which was conducted jointly by the Trails Commission and the Historic Society, and it started at the Willows, went up to the Paper Mill Museum where we had wine and mead and chocolate. And back, there were 60 people there. 60.
Awesome.
60 people. Oh, it's a chocolate factory. But I was like, they know how to publicize. So I'm trying to be inspired, take a lead from them. They publicize not that many places, but they have a real following on Meetup.
Yes.
And the chocolate factor is undeniable.
But I can tell you, I've
They
been
get
at other one of their walks and it's not uncommon for them to
No.
have that number.
Terry built up her profile and she
Yeah.
actually went out and did a Facebook boost for hers. So she was able to bring her own personal profile, I think up to 3,000. She also then coordinates with Leonard, who has, I think, 5,500 people on his profile.
Okay.
And they share everything on Instagram. I mean, Facebook is for older people like myself. Twitter and Instagram and all that is for the younger folk. So that's why they do very well with their presence. Terry, she's also the farmer's market Gather in the Circle. So she has that group. So she's got a really great group. I would love for the Newtown Township to boost her own profile because you know, if Leonard leaves, we're up a creek.
Is that a Trails and Greenway event? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Charles, great. Okay, any other items?
Do
Jeff?
we ask our?
Oh, I'm gonna go into public comment, but I was just giving any board members. Would you like to have, we're so excited to have you, so public comment.
Yeah, we have to hear you.
If you can just go to the microphone and say, give your name and address,
Just make sure that it's on green.
and we're gonna have you come every meeting, we're so excited.
Bring in friends too.
Associate members here.
Yes. I won't.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Deirdre Gordon, and I am a resident and homeowner at 287 West Chelsea Circle, Newtown Township. And basically, I wanted to thank you all for serving on the EAC. It's very important work, and just thank you for your time, your energy, and your interest in protecting our local environment. It's really good to see you at work.
Thank you. Come again. Come again.
Deirdre, Deirdre, last name Gordon, and I'm here with my husband Lloyd Cole.
Well, thank you for coming, and we invite you to come to our
Yes.
stream cleanups and our tree planting. There's so many exciting,
And our
the
bird
bird
walks
hides and all these things, and spread the word if you can. All right. Items for the next agenda. We have the Earth Day resolution. We're gonna have the obviously the agronomic. Anything else for the agenda? We will be able to do obviously a recap of the luncheon and what we learned from our EAC
Right,
conference.
we could serve.
Yep,
Yeah, right.
if anyone has any, we'll add that. EAC. Would we already mention or coming with recaps from? Yes, we just said that. All right. All right, I think we are good. Adjourned. Thank you. Take a motion.